Ms. Strang,
Here.
Chairman Walsh.
Here. And our attorney is on her way, and I think she's listening on the phone, but she'll be here shortly, so we'll continue to move forward. So we have the minutes from approval of the minutes from the November 28th, 2022 meeting. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Mr. Scributinus for adoption. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Khan. I have a list of corrections. If you don't mind, I'll go through some things here. Bear with me, okay? All right, so just some minor stuff here and typos. Page 1, line 24. I'll scroll to get there. Might find it. It says the 28th. It's actually the 14th. The meeting was on the 14th. All right. And page 3, line 74. We're just missing some information there. And the information missing is that Mr. Scributinus made a motion to approve the resolution. It was seconded by Mr. Khan. Make that complete. All right. And Laura, I can give you copies of this or email them to you to help out tomorrow. All right. Also on page 3, line 96, it says 14 for the date, and it's actually the 21st, and that's the date for the ZBA. All right. And then again, let's see, page 4, line 155. It says Ray, the highway superintendent. Let's just add Smith after his name, Ray Smith. Okay. And then on page 5, line 175, we have, let's see, right at the end of that sentence, why they want to keep the plan presented. Just change present to presented. Okay. And Laura, I think you have some comments, something you want to straighten out also?
Yeah. A member of the public who spoke under privilege of the floor on line 39 to 41 requested that those comments are encapsulated, that the construction, he wanted the construction to be at the other end of the golf course near the clubhouse. So I would recommend that we just add, after line 41, he doesn't believe it belongs in this neighborhood and wanted the construction to be at the other end by the golf course clubhouse.
Okay, that's great. Okay, does anybody else from the board have any changes or corrections to the minutes? Anybody from the board? Okay, seeing none from the board, I'm going to make a motion that we approve the minutes as modified, since there's a modification to the minutes. So we accept all changes and approve those. Do I have a second on that?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have in modified minutes. All those in favor of approving the minutes as modified signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, hearing none opposed, the minutes have been modified and approved. Thank you, everyone. So we have no public hearings tonight, so we'll move to privilege of the floor. During privilege of the floor, this is your opportunity tonight to be heard. Anyone wishing to be heard regarding any planning and zoning matters, the town of Niskayuna, this is the opportunity. Later on, there will be some discussion. We won't be getting into discussion with the audience, so please, if you have anything to say, this is the time. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
My name is Thomas Nicky. I own the Broken Inn restaurant at 2209 Knott Street in Niskayuna. On May 23rd, I first presented to you our design for increased safety measures and outdoor seating at the corner of Clifton Park Road and Knott Street. That was 203 days ago. As you likely remember, I stood before you here at Privilege of the Floor 7 weeks ago and 4 weeks ago, and again 2 weeks ago, asked you to please discuss our project. We are once again not on the agenda for discussion tonight. I wrote the town planner, the town attorney, and some members of this board 26 days ago on November 16th. I asked for clarity on the town code. I asked for plans to be modified for simplicity purposes, and I asked for our project to be discussed with this board simultaneously while legal did their research so we had an agreeable design once legal was resolved. None of my questions were answered. None of my requests were addressed. I got a one-line response that my email was received and that the town planner was awaiting legal guidance. That was 26 days ago. And again, all questions remain unanswered and all requests remain unaddressed. Since I spoke here 2 weeks ago, we had received absolutely no communication from anyone, no emails, no texts, no phone calls, no letters, until a few hours ago when we got an email stating that a response is being drafted, but that it will take some time before it can be sent to me as, quote, "We are working on some new ideas with Metroplex." Let that sink in. We can't get responses to our questions. We can't have our project discussed. Yet somehow there is an ongoing dialogue with Metroplex about their ideas for our idea. The only reason I know any details related to our project's discussion has been by listening to your commentary during the reports section of these meetings. I want to thank those of you on this board who cared enough to ask about our project during reports. I learned in your discussions that we should hire an attorney, which we are now seeking, and that you're reviewing things like the governor's executive orders on outdoor seating put in place during COVID and creating town ordinances. These seem like an overcomplication of the request at hand. To make it very clear, our request is to redesign a piece of town property and make it safer and more welcoming to guests of the plaza. We want to design it based on the community's feedback, not mine, not yours, not Metroplex's. In the process, we create 5 additional parking spaces, all at no burden to the taxpayer, as I am paying for all this myself. This is all on town land, not the landlord's, not the county's, yours. Over 200 members of the community have taken time to write you and ask you to make this project happen as well. I believe in this town, and I believe in this process. That's probably why I find where I stand tonight so unbelievable. As of tonight, this board has not held a public discussion on our project for months. As of tonight, our questions or requests remain unanswered and unaddressed. As of tonight, the community who publicly supported us in writing to you is not getting what they've asked for. And as of tonight, there are no more planning board meetings left in 2022. 2 months ago, I stood here before you disappointed but hopeful. Last month, I stood here before you frustrated but hopeful. Tonight, I stand here before you feeling wronged but hopeful. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Nicky.
How much time am I allowed?
Well, we try to keep it to, say, 5 minutes.
Fair enough.
Okay.
I'm George Young. I live at 1241 Ruffner Road, and I wanted to make some comments and ask some board actions on the proposed Mohawk Club development. With the help of my neighbors, many of who are here tonight, I've spoken to 40 homeowners along Ruffner Road and met in person with these 40 homeowners. And none of these people want this development. I want to make that very clear. The main concern is the access point. We don't want to see a house demolished. We don't want to see a new road where one was never intended. We're very concerned about the traffic, and we're concerned about the trees and the animals, right? It's one of the last wooded spaces in the area, and it would be a shame to see that destroyed. I also wanted to make it clear that the Mohawk Club is not a benefit to the neighborhood or to most town residents. It's a private club, and most of us are not members. If the Mohawk Club is in financial hardship, maybe they should consider making it more of a public resource, make it a public course. Why don't they gift the course to the town? If it was a municipal course, that would be a town benefit. But as a private club, there's very little benefit to the town. I also wanted to ask formally that the town board, and I'll follow up in writing with this, I wanted to formally ask that the town conduct an independent assessment of the land through the Army Corps of Engineers. I've spoken with them, and they've looked at this property on their maps and through Google Earth. This property has 3 routes of direct groundwater access to the Mohawk River, 2 to the north, 1 to the east. It also displays several characteristics of freshwater wetlands, including red maple, peatish soil, and standing water most of the year, right? I came across surveyors from Smart Engineering late this summer who were trespassing on my property to get access to the Mohawk Club. The Army Corps of Engineers warned me that this assessment should not be done at the end of summer, and that's exactly what the Mohawk Club did. So I really don't believe whatever they're going to submit is a fair assessment of that land. It's very wet, and it's very wet most of the year. So in conclusion, I just want to be clear, the homeowners along that road do not support this development. And if there's burden to be placed on someone, the burden should be placed on the Mohawk Club. They have access points. There's no need to demolish a home and put a road where none was ever intended.
Okay, thank you.
My name's Jonathan Valancourt. I'm a resident of Ruffner Road, and I came here to make comment on the new business item 1 for the, I'm sorry, the discussion item 1 for the Mohawk Club development proposal. I respect that it is a property owner's right to do as they wish with their property, and I understand that an individual has that right. I also believe it's the right of the neighbors to expect that upon the sale of a home, it will stay a home and not become a roadway. I believe that it is a reasonable expectation for neighbors to expect a home would be replaced in kind if it was damaged, removed in some way, shape, or form, and follow the deeds or abstracts and constraints applied onto the remaining neighborhood to ensure that the character of the neighborhood is maintained, as well as the kind of cultural aspect of the neighborhood. I have a copy of my house's original title of abstract that I've gone through from when the house was built in 1959. I can make a copy of it available to the board if the board feels it is appropriate. And I do not believe that the proposed development fits the expected use of laid down for Ruffner Road property within this title and abstract, which is the expectation that homeowners have bought into the property along that road. Being that the property would maintain fitting in with the title of abstract that they were built, designed around, and the constraints placed upon them. I'd also like to note that this line item is listed in, and there's some commentary before the meeting, but I feel it's listed on the agenda in a very disingenuous and inaccurate nature. The agenda item listed is 1851 Union Street, the address of the golf course, who is making the application for the development on the golf course property. Yet it has a direct impact upon 1245 Ruffner Road, which is not on the agenda nor listed explicitly in most of the discussions. I have not, many residents along the road have not been made aware of any public notices for this address, been made aware that those have not yet occurred, but find it concerning that the applicant and the board are, at least on the agenda, have been explicitly omitting the Ruffner Road address, because I think it is reasonable for the average public to review the agenda and look for addresses that are being directly impacted. Additionally, any neighbor looking for information on this item is unlikely to understand it as a Union Street address. So I think clear communication has not really been in favor of the public and the neighborhood for this agenda item. And I would request that the planning board require the developers to go through a new public process explicitly for the Ruffner Road address as a separate line item. I do not believe, I could be wrong, but I do not believe they're actually owned by the same individual. I believe, based on looking at the publicly available data, they're owned by multiple individuals. And so I would presume that they should be separate line items and go through separate processes in order to reconcile it with the processes that are outlined. I also think that holding the Ruffner Road property changes within a separate address line item from the Union Street changes would be appropriate and make sure there was clear communication to the town and the public. Another point, in looking through some of the previous conversation and discussion, I have not noticed, I have seen impact studies for water and sewer. I've seen impact studies talked about for land use or conservation, but I have not seen any impact studies pointed to for the school district. There is a non-insignificant number of units being added And as some of the more recent changes go, I don't think it's appropriate to presume that the demographic being targeted by these more recent changes would not have an impact to the school district. In fact, I've seen very few school district impact assessments performed on most planning efforts, but I think this would be really important because the schools currently serving this area are under significant strain due to the student population increases. In fact, the school district has reported nearing or in excess of 100% capacity in the schools that service this area. And, the school is starting to execute their capital project, and adding these properties may significantly strain the plans for that capital project. In fact, their planning assumptions did not include additional properties like this in the capital project assumptions. And so there could be significant impacts to the taxpayer base and the school planning assumptions that would negatively impact or be negatively impacted by a subdivision of this magnitude being implemented within this area. And I would request or formally request and encourage the board to request the Mohawk Club and the developers to work with the school district to pay for and perform an impact assessment based on the proposed development. Because I think it will have a significant impact upon that. The development originally had multiple options of townhomes and single-family units. Now we're seeing a mix of townhomes and single-family units. I think that any further action or approvals on this item should be delayed until after a school district assessment is performed, considering how significant of an impact it could potentially have. Understanding that impact will be important to understanding how much of a tax burden this increase in units within the school district area will have on the town residents, and how much the town residents may bear in a financial tax burden due to this project and the impact on the school district. Finally, I request that the planning board require the developers to use an existing road spur or access point for this development or existing road frontage along the property for this access to this development. Using an existing road spur will be consistent with prior projects within the town and help preserve the established neighborhood, not only in the view, but in the dynamics and in the public safety aspects with respect to the traffic on the road and the significant, young child population that is on that road. Deviating from using existing road spurs may impact road safety design, especially by creating a new intersection very close to an existing intersection, yet offset. So you'll be dealing with a lot of road glare from cars. You'll be dealing with a lot of kind of off-angle potentials for accidents. The potential need for additional stop signs along the route. And in fact, it will generally impact the flow along Ruffner Road, which is used as kind of a thoroughfare for a lot of people in a negative fashion. So much so that I think a lot of residents would be pushing then for the town to consider creating one part of Ruffner Road as a one-way cul-de-sac or a dead end to mitigate potential cut-through concerns and reduce traffic, which will have its own financial impact and burden if the town residents are looking to push for that. So that's the end of my items. I just want to say I'm not in favor of this proposed development, but I understand and respect that the property owners can do what they want with the property. But I would request that the board consider this not favorable for the town nor for the residents of the area.
Sir, you said Ruffner Road. Can I have your house number?
1274,
1271?
74.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Hello, my name is Albert Myrer. I live at 1166 Ruffner. I've lived at this address 25 years. I moved into Ruffner based on the character of the neighborhood specifically. We moved from Pittsfield, Massachusetts. We came here because of the school district, and specifically I moved into Ruffner Road because I like that neighborhood. I'm concerned about maintaining the quality of the neighborhood, which doesn't include townhouses, apartments, heavy traffic. My wife and I are the proud grandparents of a 1.5-year-old grandson. He comes and stays with us 4 days a week. He loves to play in our driveway. We're concerned about the traffic. Already we're concerned about the traffic. Adding more traffic on that street is just unthinkable. So quality of life, safety, these are my concerns. I hope you, if you approve the project, I hope it doesn't include a cut into Ruffner Road. Put those, put that traffic and put those people somewhere else. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Carol Furman, and I live at 1269 Ruffner Road. I'm concerned about the impact of a potential for 44 additional cars entering Ruffner Road. This is a road with no sidewalks. It has frequent walkers, runners, and cyclists. I'm also concerned about the safety hazard, which has been mentioned, of locating a boulevard entry and exit literally a lot and a half distant from an existing intersection with Mountain View Road. I'm also concerned that there's not capacity in the water main nor in the sewer line in order to add 22 additional homes, and that the stormwater drainage will increase north of the development where the land drops off and is already wet during much of the year. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Aiden Schweitzer. I'm 1277 Ruffner Road. I basically just saw the plans for the second time tonight. I went to the initial meeting at the golf club, and right next to my property is the tee box, the 14th tee box. And I just noticed that there's a proposal to change the land plus or minus 26 feet of elevation and use an access road there for it. The intersection that this will be going in on is near Ruffner and Linwood, which right now I'm concerned with the children. My children use that as a bus stop, and cars actually use Ruffner as a throughway to get to Union or Route 7. Cars constantly blow through that stop sign without even stopping. I know many residents on the road can attest to this. And I think adding another road to that to have sort of a four-way intersection that does not meet standard as a four-way intersection is going to be a major concern. So basically, yeah, I'm concerned about the traffic with Ruffner, the school district, with children already being very packed in the schools, and it would be strictly to Rosendale and Iroquois. Just thought I'd put that on record.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Alan Holmes, 1301 Ruffner Road, happened to be on the other side of the 14th tee. A little concerned because the last meeting that I attended involved with the discussion on this development. One of the things was said that the golf course fairways would not be disturbed in any fashion because under consideration was possibility of coming off Country Club Estates. The other consideration possibly would be coming down Rao Road and cutting in front of the 14th tee. That involves a lot more real estate than the original 13 acres that was planned for the development. So the concern is several fold. That's part of it. how that's going to affect the backyards of all those properties along Ruffner Road. The other part of this is that this is the first I've read of it since the discussion at the golf course, and I don't believe there are too many people from Rowell Road that know that this is a possibility, or the people from Country Club Estates. I know they had big concerns at the original meetings at the Country Club, but I don't know that they still have been informed of the possibility of these other accesses. So the project seems to have blown in several different areas and directions, and I think that involves a lot more concerned people than even are here now who have big concerns. And I'm very much in agreement with their expressions of concerns over that Ruffner Road direction and what that property has been. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Carol Holmes. I'm his other half from 1301 Ruffner. Initially, when this whole project was proposed, the developers made it very clear that they were going to be open and upfront with us. They invited us to meetings. We were promised that they would keep us up to date with what's going on. This whole thing has come out of the blue, this possibility of different intersections coming into the 14th tee. I live next to the 14th tee. I don't possibly see how they're going to put a road there without creating horrendous havoc. The intersection there, as Eric said, is I live by a stop sign that no one sees now. I'm horrified that you would put more traffic coming out into that intersection when it's not being monitored by the town as it is. They race by at horrendous speeds, well above the speed limit. No access to, no ability or willingness apparently to stop. That completely changes the course, the contours of the land if you're coming in from either one of those sections. And as the neighbor, and I'm sure Eric's the same way, we would like to know, does that mean there's going to be a house on the top of the 14th tee? We were told that that area by the 14th tee was not to be affected at all. And their promises to keep us informed are clearly a falsehood. We haven't had no knowledge of them. I missed a previous meeting because I didn't know it existed, and I would have been there. It seems to me, and I'm concerned that there's an awful lot of stuff going on underneath the board that no one knows about. And I think as long-term residents of Ruffner Road, which is a lovely community, we want it to stay that way. We want it to stay lovely. We want it to stay safe. We pay good taxes to be there, and we don't want it disrupted. All of us. I don't think you'd find one person that lives on Ruffner Road that would be in favor of this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, privilege of the floor, still open. Anybody wishing to be heard regarding any planning and zoning matters?
Sure. My name is Stephen Clementi. I've got an issue with notification to residents on Ruffner Road, number one. My wife Kathy and I, 1231 Ruffner Road, moved in, bought the house third week of October of 2021. We had absolutely no knowledge from the realtors that this was a prospective development. We actually bought the house because of its frontage on the woodlot on the golf course. We came from an area completely surrounded by woods. We said, well, we can't get that totally, but at least we have, no houses behind us and we have the woodlot there. So that was issue number one. Number two, I work away a lot. I'm in New York City, other parts of the state all the time. You've got our tax records. Could somebody from the planning board send notices to the 20 houses that are going to be affected on that side of the street of Ruffner? Absolutely no notification. Really? We pay our taxes. You've got our bills. Nobody could send it. Linda, I drafted a note tonight when I found out at 4:00 about this meeting to you with my primary concerns. Any one of you board members, if you go to the intersection of Mountain View and Ruffner Road, sit there for 5 minutes, watch the 25 cars that go through that never stop for the stop sign, right? You're going to have an immediate concern with the traffic issues. Question, was a traffic study done? Can somebody tell me that?
We'll talk about it later tonight under discussions.
Okay, good. I urge you to just sit there. I urge you to see the 20 runners that go by, the 38 people like me that have 2 dogs that are walking in, all the kids that play there. A single egress will not work on that road without an extreme danger to the people that live there. In extreme danger. It creates a safety hazard. I heard via my wife, who was, when I was out of town, the golf course and the proposed development folks and the developer invited people over. I heard that somebody said, you can't put a road through the golf course. I'll name a couple right off the bat. Freer Park in Troy, road going right through the golf course. The golfers stop, they cross the road, they continue their play. Another one in Fort Hunter. Can't tell you the name of it. Major road going right through the golf course. I mean, that's absurd that we can't find another egress option other than Ruffner Road. The reason we bought into the neighborhood was because we loved the character of the neighborhood. We went in, we looked at the house multiple times. It was a very people-friendly neighborhood. If right now, there are periods of time with buses, with waste removal trucks going by, and people on the road, you're only going to add significant traffic, to this neighborhood. And it's just wrong to do it this way. The other issue is there's a significant amount of water in the woods on the property behind our yard, which impacts the back of our yard, which we didn't know because it wasn't a wet year last year. I want to understand what water studies have been done and what they're planning to do to alleviate that. If, as this gentleman has said, they're going to raise the level by 26 feet of the property per se, where's that water going to go? Newsflash, it's probably going into all of our backyards. That is unacceptable, right? And many of us will put our houses on the market tomorrow if you guys don't do your due diligence to understand exactly what the ramifications of this project are. That's serious. That's a serious concern for all of us, who many of them have lived here 20 years. I've been there a year, but it's going to be a serious ramification. You will have to put a light at that egress and ingress. And again, pick a time, 7 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I guarantee you'll see people going through there faster, running the stop signs, and it is going to be a safety hazard. And again, my issue of notification, I'm not sure why we weren't notified. I found out from my neighbors walking my dogs that this was going to happen. This is the wrong way to do things for taxpayers in this unit. Stephen Clementi, 1231 Ruffner Road.
Thank you, sir. Okay, privilege of the floor is still open. Anybody else in here that would like to speak? Laura, do we have anybody online that want to speak tonight?
I don't see anyone online, but I have a fair number of emails.
Okay, we'll let Ms. King go and we'll get to the emails when everybody's done. Hello.
Sorry, took me
No
a while
problem.
to get out of the chair.
Too comfortable, huh?
I have a few comments.
Just identify yourself, Ms. King, for the record.
I'm Gail King. I live at 1633 Balltown Road. I have a business at 2220 Clifton Park Road. And I'm here tonight to complain. Mr. Nishi is very adamant about what he wants and what he expects to get and what he demands. And what he's wanting is access to my property. He's wanting to use property that's not there. He has been given parking spaces that are not there. They've been counted over and over. Same parking spaces, not there. In fact, 15 parking spaces were plowed over, and now we have a new highway on it, on Knott Street. Basically, he and possibly the rest of you are telling the rest of us to move over. You are allowing, hang on. Okay, come on. You're allowing the new guy on the block to move in on top of us. Longtime resident and business can go to hell. Excuse me, but I can't thank you. Now if I can get the rest of this out. See, now it goes over there. That's not right. Come on. Well, you get the point. You understand that I am complaining about being walked on. I'm complaining about being taken for granted, that my property is being given to other people, namely Mr. Nishi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready, I'm Mark Thomas, 1265 Ruffner Road. Just wanted to reiterate what I've heard already from my neighbors on Ruffner Road, and that I've been hearing that either folks from the Mohawk Club or from the board or people are saying, everybody's fine with this except for one person who happened to go to a meeting. I think probably more people would have gone to meetings and expressed their unhappiness about this if it had been better publicized. But since it wasn't, somehow there's this impression out there that everybody's fine with this except for maybe one person. And I can tell you that it is absolutely untrue. For all those reasons that were discussed, the drainage, and not the least of which is the traffic. We have dubbed Ruffner Road Ruffner Raceway shortly after moving in because of the way traffic goes by our house. In fact, when I mow the lawn, I'm constantly worried about getting run over by motorists, and I'm getting beeped at by motorists racing by as I'm turning around mowing my lawn. That's now, and I can only imagine what would happen if a project of this magnitude were to be implemented. So again, I want to voice for the record, Mark and Rebecca Thomas, 1265 Ruffner Road. We strenuously object, and everyone I have spoken with, the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else there like to speak before I have Laura go through any letters we received? Okay. Here, Laura.
So the first letter is from Becky Thomas. I am writing to oppose the Mohawk Golf Club development zoning change application for sketch plan approval and development. All of our neighbors and everyone in the community that I have spoken to strongly opposes it. This would result in a terrible impact on our homes and our community. This would set a horrible precedent in the town. A house should not be torn down to build additional roads. We purchased our home at 1265 Ruffner Road because of the woods and the privacy behind us that border the club. These woods are full of biodiversity, including deer, turkey, fox, eagles, many different birds, many other animals, and wetlands that should be protected. The Mohawk Club did not invite us or any of the impacted neighbors that we have talked to attend any of the town meetings by letter. Please do not approve the destruction of beautiful wetlands, woods, biodiversity, and open space in our town. Please do not allow the destruction of diverse wildlife and natural habitat. Please do not tear down a house and build more roads. Please do not allow increased traffic. Please do not approve the destruction of privacy and views of all the homeowners who purchase their property on Ruffner Road because of these woods and views. Please deny this zone change, sketch plan approval, and development. And then there's just one more paragraph here. Becky also adds, a few months ago, a neighbor and I saw a peregrine falcon perching on a tree in that area. Once listed under the Endangered Species Act, the peregrine falcon was delisted in 1999. Now that the peregrine falcon is no longer on the endangered species list, we must ensure it is adequately protected against reckless development and other threats that can disturb falcons and affect their survival. The second letter I have is from Shoshana Boulay. Good afternoon. I would appreciate it if you would read this note into the record at tonight's meeting of the zoning board during the time reserved for public comment. My family and I have lived on Ruffner Road for more than 10 years. One of the principal reasons that Ruffner Road appealed to us was that the street fronted the Mohawk Golf Club golf course, promising a quiet, picturesque neighbor. Over the last year, I have observed with dismay a development plan being put forward by the club that would create a huge new high-density housing development, eliminating the quiet, picturesque neighborhood. By knocking down a long-established home on our street to create a new road to permit access to a new high-density development of single and multifamily dwellings, the club is looking to change the essential character of our street and neighborhood. A new road into the club's proposed neighborhood will drastically increase traffic and disturbance on our road of widely spaced single-family homes on large lots. My family and I are opposed to permitting the club to knock down an existing home to use Ruffner Road to access this new high-density housing development. If the board is inclined to grant the very many variances from the code that the proposed development would require, I urge it to consider requiring the club to reconfigure the golf course to permit access to its new neighborhood through existing club land, denying permission to use Ruffner Road to do so. The club currently has multiple existing curb cuts on both Union Street and Country Club Road, permitting cars and trucks onto its property, and there are many golf court roads already in existence throughout the course. By using existing club curb cuts and widening existing course roads, the club is already able to accommodate its new neighborhood without ruining ours. Thank you for your time and attention to this important matter. 1119 Ruffner Road. Sorry, a lot of these came in very soon. This comment is from David Furman, 1269 Ruffner Road. I am unable to attend the planning board meeting tonight, but I have comments about it that I wanted to make the planning board and the public at large know. An apparently totally overlooked consideration in the process of approving or disapproving of this plan is global climate change. Two things are evident in this regard. The Intergovernmental Panel's report on climate change have consistently been less dire than what the world has actually experienced in past decades. Events have reliably happened faster and more severely than were predicted. This is every reason to expect the trend to continue. We can expect greater and greater problems as time goes on with the issues related to extreme storms, floods, and droughts. In view of number one above, it should be clear to all that we should be planning for even more extreme conditions than what have been predicted. That can be expected to affect us in at least three ways. There is a clear need to consider vastly greater drainage issues in this proposed development than merely looking at the past history of the area, because things will get much worse. There are already drainage issues in the lands between houses on Ruffner Road and the Mohawk Golf Club lands, especially the northern part of that area. The proposed development does not seem to recognize the expected growth of drainage issues. B, we are encouraged to maintain forests and to plant new trees in an effort to sequester carbon dioxide and avoid some of the problems associated with climate change. The clearing of trees necessary for this development is obviously a step in the wrong direction. Present building codes are based on the past. Present building codes are based on the past, but we can expect worse conditions to prevail in coming years. I suggest that the whole application be tabled until such time as serious consideration can be given to the clearly serious issues caused by past, ongoing, and future changing climate conditions. So I got an email from Stephen, but I believe he spoke already. So I'm just going to skip that one. And I I have one more that I accidentally just archived because I was overly clicking and I don't know how to get to it. Do you know how to get to your archive? Go Gmail. So the last one, which I'm in a new email system that I'm not very used to, was from Cliff Wall, and he was opposed to the development, and I will forward it to the board when I am able to get to it. Apologize for that one.
Okay, Ms. Robertson, that's it?
Yeah.
Okay, appreciate that. I know it's hard. Anybody else here would like to speak or privilege of the floor? Give you more opportunity? Anything else? And again, looks like we have nobody online that want to talk. So with that, I'll close privilege of the floor. We appreciate your comments. Under unfinished business tonight, we have the adoption of our 2023 calendar. That was included in the packet. Hopefully everybody had a chance to take a look at it. Is there any concerns from anybody regarding the dates? As we all know that if something comes up, we can, with the proper notifications, we're able to change the calendar. So with that, I'll take a motion to approve the calendar.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Motion to approve the calendar by Mr. Scrubby Tennis. Have a second?
A second.
Second by Mr. Laflamme. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, hearing none opposed, we have a calendar for 2023. Thank you.
Chairman, I was able to find it with my Outlook lens.
Oh, were you? Okay.
Yeah, is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. So this email is from Cliff Wall. He said, I hope this note finds you well. I am writing to express my concern for the proposed subdivision behind my home. I reside at 2540 Hilltop Road. I am strongly opposed to any type of development behind my home. New construction continues in Niskayuna, and with all the new development, one would expect taxes to go down. With the increased population, they continue to go up. There's zero incentive for myself and the town to allow any additional neighborhoods to be built. I will join my neighbors and use whatever legal means necessary to prevent this project from happening.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, so we'll move on to new business. We have a couple items tonight. Under new business, first item being resolution 2022-33, and this is a resolution for site plan approval for new signage at Hillcrest Village Apartments, and that's at 1515 Hillside Avenue. And as always, I'll just summarize the resolution. It's been posted on our website. Resolved that the Planning Board and Zoning Commission has determined that the proposed sign waivers as described above would have a minimum negative effect on the aesthetics. And that's waivers would include for sign number 2, that's an 8 square foot waiver, and for sign number 5, a 4 square foot waiver. Further resolved, the Planning Board and Zoning Commission does hereby grant said waivers to allow for the signage as described in the 13-page document entitled Sign Summary by Bartush Signs dated 8/18/21, most recent revision of 11/15/22. And be it further resolved that the Planning Board and Zoning Commission finds the above referenced site plan meets the requirements of the zoning code and previous site plan approvals, and therefore hereby approves the site plan. Can I have a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Resolutions moved for adoption by Mr. DiArpino. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Shenfield. Any discussion? I guess the only thing I'd like to say is thank you to the applicant for working on this and listening to the board's concerns and clarifying the signs. So we appreciate your effort here. Okay. Any other comments from the board? Hearing none, Mr. Henry, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme,
Aye.
Mr. Scrubby Tennis,
Aye.
Mr. Khan,
Aye.
Mr. McPartlin,
Aye.
Mr. Darpino,
Aye.
Ms. Shenfield,
Aye.
Chairman Walsh.
Aye. Motion carries. The resolution is approved. Thank you. And I guess you just issue the final building permit if it is required or not. It's a matter to have one, right?
No, we can't issue the building permit until after you guys take
Okay.
action.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Crawford.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Next, we have a recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals regarding 2721 Balltown Road. This is a recommendation regarding a site plan approval, which requires a use variance for the construction of 2 additional 6-unit apartment buildings and an accessory garage and parking. And this is 2721 Balltown Road, which was the former animal veterinarian hospital.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Rob Stout, project attorney. A couple updates since the last meeting. Laura's bringing up the revised plan. As we had talked about at the last meeting, and at your recommendation, we flipped the garage and the what was previously the southern residential structure so that it's now along the northerly side against the less densely populated lot. In this rendering, we maintain the 25-foot setback on both sides. Although I do think there's room if during the site plan review, the planning board would prefer to shift that northern building even closer to the property line to, in essence, buy some more of a buffer along the southerly line. So that's update number one. Update number two, we appeared before the CAC last Wednesday. Something that was very important to the CAC was that for at least the back half of the property that's not proposed to be developed, that we agree to maintain that as forever wild, that is not seek any further development approvals for that. Also, aside from maybe installing some trails around the pond and some trails to provide connectivity with other lots behind our client's lot, that nothing else be developed there. And we confirmed on the record that we're okay with that. My client's okay with that. And we'll work with the ZBA if they're inclined to grant the use variance, to include that as a condition by way of deed restriction or otherwise, so it's of record on the parcel. The third and final update is that just prior to the CAC meeting last Tuesday, wetlands ecologist was on site and flagged the location of the wetlands. We had only had a chance to glance at it quickly before the meeting last Wednesday. The ecologist has yet to provide the plot information, the coordinates to the engineer. That's why the new delineation does not yet appear on that map. Although there seems to be a distinct possibility that we might lose one of the two proposed new buildings given the location of the wetlands once they're plotted on the map, given the the town's 25-foot setback requirement as well. So as things stand now, this is still our current proposal, but we do recognize the fact that if there is a wetlands encroachment into the wetlands or the buffer, that we could have to shrink the proposed density. So this represents our proposal in the maximum development envelope, but if during SECRA we confirm that there is wetlands in that area in the back there, we'll amend our application before the ZBA to reflect that.
Okay, thank you. Obviously, we're going to take action tonight, but I thought, thanks for the update. If the board has any questions before we get to making our recommendation to zoning board, here's an opportunity. Have any questions amongst ourselves, discussion, or with the applicant before we go?
From the setback from is 40 feet. That's required. The
For-
setback
Under a multifamily
under
zoning,
multifamily, but this is not a multifamily.
it would be considered that. But what we talked about at the last meeting was that it's really hard for us to take action on area variances because, like, it's possible that the location of the buildings are changing, and the site plan is still pretty fluid. So they agreed to take their area variances off the table for now. And we're just looking at the use variance, and the variance, they're sort of, it's in your recommendation, but for multiple principal buildings on the lot.
Right. Yeah, strictly use variance recommendation tonight. Who knows what the ZBA will do and whether or not what the conditions may be from their action if they do approve the use variance. Then we'll get into site plan as the applicant just stated, and then we'll take a look at what the standards are for the R3, and we'll see if we can do our best to try to accommodate those. And if we can't, we'll have to send it back to the ZBA for area variances. So right now, it's really a concept. Like as we know, the wetlands haven't been delineated, so it's a concept. We got it further enough along that we can at least make a recommendation on the use variance portion. Anything else? Okay, so we have a denial letter from the town regarding the use variance. It has 3 points on the denial letter. First one being failure to comply with the use variance granted by the ZBA on 10/21/20. So as proposed, this proposal, the construction of 2 new additional multifamily dwellings does not comply with the use variance granted at the 10/21/20 ZBA meeting. Therefore, a new use variance is required. Another point 2, that this application has failure to comply with section 220-4 of the Niskayuna zoning code. So as proposed, the construction of 2 additional multifamily dwelling units constitute additional principal buildings and therefore does not comply with the code. Therefore, a new use variance is also required to meet that point. And then the third point, failure to comply with section 220-10K of the Niskayuna zoning code. As proposed, again, the multifamily dwelling units are not listed as a principal or special permitted uses, right? This is zoned RP, therefore a new use variance is required. My view is that these all go hand in hand, and so I'm just going to ask for a recommendation based on the use variance, which contains all 3 of these strategic points or matters, okay? So we'll just make a recommendation and make our recommendation. If there's anything specific that anybody would like to add regarding any of these points, we could do that, capture that when we pass this on to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Is that okay with everybody? Okay. So for making recommendations to the Zoning Board of Appeals, the first thing we got to take a look at three things, basically. First one being the effect on the comprehensive plan. Mr. DiArpino is the project lead, so I'm going to ask him to lead us off, make a recommendation. So for the recommendation of ZBA, Mr. DiArpino, effect on the comprehensive plan?
Yes, I believe it affects the comprehensive plan. It extends the current use variance and therefore can set a precedent with future applications, specifically in the RP zone.
All right. So the recommendation for Mr. DiArpino that it is in effect because it's an expansion of the previously approved use. Any discussion on that? Concerns? I'm going to put it to a vote by show of hands. All right. Okay, all those that agree with Mr. DiArpino that there is an effect on comprehensive plan for the reasons stated, please signify by saying aye that there is an effect.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Is anyone opposed? Just want to make it clear with the virtual. Everybody was aye there, it looks like. Other members? You nod your heads to be okay. All right, thank you. All right, next point that we need to make a recommendation on is the suitability of use for the area which it's proposed. So obviously it's a RP zoned. We are a previous use variance, which allowed the existing expansion of which was a 3-unit apartment building and a veterinarian clinic to a 6-unit apartment building. And this again is for an expansion to include some number of additional apartments to be decided when we do site plan review. So Mr. DiArpino, suitability for use in the area proposed?
Yes, I believe it's suitable for the parcel under consideration since the parcel has already been granted use as a residential unit and is surrounded by other residential units. I'd like to also add that the sizes of the units will be subject to further review by the planning board during this application process.
Okay, everybody's got that. Is there any other thoughts or comments regarding that suitability? Suitable with some comments, basically.
Chairman Walsh, I wanted to add that when we first moved from a animal hospital, which already had 3 apartments in the building, and we went to a 6 apartment in the building, same building, it was a problematic animal hospital for the community. So I know I felt, and I think most of the board did, that it was a suitable use. It was actually an improvement. I am a little concerned about the expansion to 2 more units on the building,
Okay.
on the property.
The one thing I think we need to be careful, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, is that the drawing does show 2 units. We want to make sure that when we pass on our recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals, that's very clear that their determination and their action is on the use variance only, not on the site plan, because we need to work through it. As we stated, the buildings, obviously we like to keep the buildings as small as possible and be able to fit into the residential character of the neighborhood that's there. And then with the wetlands delineation, all the other work we have to do, we'll have to approach area variances sooner or later. So we're not really set on that. So I appreciate your comments. But I just want to make sure that we pass on to the Zoning Board of Appeals that there has been no sketch plan approval, that we have a concept that we're working from. Based on their action, we will, take it the next step and do a site plan review, which is a major investment in engineering, obviously for the applicant. So the use variance is paramount in order to get that far. All right. Any other concerns or questions regarding suitability or differences of opinion on suitability? I personally agree with Mr. DiArpino, and as long as we can minimize the number of units within our power and minimize the impact on the neighbors is my goal, obviously. I'm sure it's everybody else's. Okay, so the recommendation is that it's suitable with the comments that Mr. DiArpino had, and we'll have an opportunity to write this all up to make sure that that's captured correctly. So suitable, all those that feel that it's suitable for the area proposed signify by saying aye.
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 All right.
Aye.
Okay, and opposed?
Opposed.
Okay. Anybody virtually opposed, or you guys were okay with it, right? You guys were good with it, all right? So we have 1 nay, and that would be Mr. Khan. All the rest of the board, 6-1, feels it's suitable.
The nay was concern of the expansion and density, right?
Expansion of use.
Yep. Okay. And next is, what is our recommendation to the ZBA, Mr. DiArpino?
So I recommend that it's go to the ZBA for consideration to grant the use variance. However, I wanted to add a couple of the following notations, some of which were already brought up here. The first one is that sketch plan review is not completed yet. I want to make sure that the ZBA is fully aware of that. Number two is that it needs to fit within the residential character of the surrounding area. And then number three, the unique nature of the original use variance was that the renovation utilized an existing structure that retained the character of the original building while repurposing it for residential use, fully residential use. This project is a new build. So I just want to make sure that that's clearly stated in the recommendation.
Thank you. Any other comments regarding that recommendation? Concerns? Okay, so the recommendation is a positive recommendation to the zoning board of appeals with the caveats that Mr. DiArpino listed, that this is a concept. Obviously, the site plan review that we keep talking about is an important aspect if we get there, based on the zoning board's decision. So it's recommendation is that they approve. All those that agree signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed?
Opposed.
And Mr. Khan's opposed. I think for the reasons would be the same
The
reasons.
same reasons.
It's an expansion of use.
In fact, I can ditto some of Mr. DiArpino's comments at the end.
Okay, all right. Any questions for the applicant or concerns or comments? Because I think that's all before us tonight. You're going to the zoning board of appeals on the 21st.
Correct.
And has probably been noticed already, I assume, right, for the residents?
Yes, so the notices went in the mail on Friday.
All right, so we'll see what the outcome is there and whether we welcome you back or not.
Very good. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
All right.
Yes.
All right, thank you. And thank you, board. Thank you, Mr. DiArpino. And, okay, that closes new business for tonight. So move on to discussion items. First discussion item being 1851 Union Street, and that's the Mohawk Golf Club, and that's application for sketch plan approval, including a special use permit for a 22 lot average density development. We have the applicant, representative of the applicant here, and they will discuss this new proposal. I appreciate everybody's concerns. At the privilege of the floor, we'll try to address some of those. One thing I do want to say is that this is a new application tonight for an average density development. You know, this has been a work in progress. We've had some discussions at the board, but no actions have been taken, and we're not going to take any action tonight. Any actions that will be taken, there will be a notice, a formal notice, public hearings, et cetera. And for an average density development, town board has to issue the special use permit. So this board will get this site plan along to a spot that we feel that we're comfortable with. We'll make a recommendation. First of all, we'll have a public hearing, a formal public hearing here. Then we'll make a recommendation to the town board. Town board will have to take action on the average density development, the issuance of the special use permit, and they will also have another public hearing. So there's going to be more than enough opportunity to be heard and get involved in this project. Okay?
All right. Thank you. And good evening, everybody. My name is Dave Kimmer from ABD Engineers. I'm here on behalf of the Mohawk Golf Club. And I know this is the third time that you have all seen this project. And as you're aware, we are now proposing an average density development. So instead of having 22 townhomes with a litany of variances, we have now elected to go the average density development route and propose 10 single-family homes and 12 townhome units. The lots now conform to the average density requirements. As you can see, the overall limits of the subdivision are the same. The road layout is generally the same. The limits of disturbance are also generally the same, but all the townhomes are now concentrated on the northern end of the cul-de-sac, and the single family are at the southern end of the cul-de-sac. We have also incorporated some suggestions from the Conservation Advisory Committee and increased the conservation area and added a full town right-of-way stub at the end of the northern cul-de-sac to accommodate a second means of emergency access to the golf course. And this emergency access is going to use part of the existing cart path, which goes near the end of the proposed cul-de-sac and continues near Row Road, where we're proposing to connect to our property via grass pavers and then connect to the stub at Row Road via a paved section with a gate. Other than that, the overall design hasn't changed much since you last seen it. We did change the boulevard a little bit to reduce the width or reduce the length of the boulevard portion to just where the entrance is. And the main, I guess, connector will now just be a standard road. As you also see in your packets, we provided an exhibit which showed basically what we don't want to do, which is connect, use the existing stub near Linwood and to the south to connect to the subdivision. I know that was a major concern, or that was one of the concerns
And maybe
that I heard.
Yeah, Laura's going to pull that up, and maybe you can put your cursor on that. But I'd like you to at least address both of those, the whys or why nots, okay?
Okay.
I know it's not easy.
So there, some of the concerns from the board were that perhaps we could, we don't need to come in off Ruffner Road where we're coming in with the boulevard and use some of the existing frontage that we have. And we do not want to do this because it's, as you can see on this end, you're going to have a road that's going to be over 10% grade, which doesn't meet town standards. It's a huge hill. I mean, it's going to disturb part of the golf course, part of the stormwater management area on the golf course. And you're going to have a road like closer to someone's backyard than you would with the way we want to do it. Now, on the other side, you don't really have too much of a challenge grade-wise, but as you can see, we're going to be disturbing part of the green, and we don't want to do that. And you're also going to have a road, closer to someone's backyard than you would want.
I believe the only difference there is that there's a right-of-way or an easement.
There is a right-of-way there. I can.
Yeah, look at, guys, I appreciate the comments, but we can't, we got to keep control. Okay, and I appreciate it.
So this is actually a town right-of-way right here. It's a stub that when this older subdivision was originally created, this was built into the
Yeah,
subdivision.
and Mr. Kimmer, I'm sorry, but we'll need to keep you at the microphone so we don't get you recording. So Laura, put her cursor on that to help out, or at least try to point it out, okay? So
I can repeat that, I guess.
yeah, so the thing is that there's a right-of-way there, and so the thought is, hey, those homeowners, if they, done their homework, they
Yeah.
would know that there's a right-of-way there when they purchase those homes, unlike the other location. And that's why the board want you to take a look at that and see if that can
Right.
be utilized somehow.
And on the other side, there's, existing frontage from the parent parcel.
Right.
It's not necessarily a town, it isn't a town right away, but there's a, existing frontage that kind of looks like a right away.
All right, and I can understand the topo lines that are pretty steep, where you have to come in, I guess that would be to the west of the property, would it be? At the west end?
That'd be the east.
East. To the right, that's the east and the right?
That's the north.
Well, page right is north.
Okay. Thank you.
So, yeah, I just want to be clear. We do not want to do either of those things.
Yep, understood. And if you were to come in on the, I guess it would be to the south, right? So the one that has a potential, because there's a
Right away.
a right of way there already.
Right.
And say you did something to eliminate or move the hole. Have you thought about how that would work out? Would there be an option to say to have like a one-way in and a one-way out at the proposed boulevard? And that would eliminate the need potentially for a the emergency access?
Well, we just feel that the emergency access, it's just a better option. We don't anticipate it ever being used. We don't want to go creating one-way streets.
Yeah, I'm just throwing some.
So
thoughts out.
that's what we thought about, and
Yeah,
we don't want to have to disturb the existing golf course either.
right. So obviously we heard from the neighbors tonight, obviously they have concerns with the plan. One of the concerns the board has brought up is that the two existing homes on either side of the boulevard taking down the property at, was it 1245? What's the number of that? 1245, taking that property down creates two non-conforming residential lots because now they'll have two front yards that they didn't have before. So if they decide that they want to put a pool or a shed or something in and they want to utilize what used to be their side yard, it would now be a front yard and they would have to go to the ZBA themselves for an area variance.
So I will say that we're not changing the lot lines at all. For 1245 or 1241, I guess you could, in a way, say that we are creating a new front yard. But that house now would be have a 41-foot setback where the requirement is only 35. So we're not creating a nonconformity.
Yeah.
And this house at 1253, we're actually not creating a new front yard at all because they're going to be fronting on the conserved land, not the road, the right of way. So they're going to have a strip of maybe, I want to say 70 feet wide where, that is not the right
Yeah,
way.
bottom line is that house, if they like this proposal, makes out pretty well.
Right.
Which is
That will never be developed.
Yeah.
It's going to be, they're losing a house.
And gaining.
They're gaining a road, but
Some more
there's
green
still
space
about
too,
70
yeah.
or 70 to 80 feet of green area.
Yeah, yeah, for that house. The other one, and their driveway now is off Ruffner, but it would have to be relocated to the boulevard, right? I'm just saying this out loud make sure the public.
Right. That's just how we have it proposed.
Yep. Okay.
Their driveway is actually off of
It's a shared
sort of
driveway.
like a T
Yeah.
off of Ruffner.
Okay.
It's like a shared driveway.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Yeah. But yeah, please, and future privilege of the floor, writing or send an email to planner, okay? That is your house? Was your address? Okay, thank you. So the proposal basically as stands, and I know the town started its review on the average density development. We have some comments, some initial feedback about whether it meets the standards for an average density development. I think the biggest question that we have right now is open space and benefit to the public, right? I think that's part of it. Isn't just open space, it's supposed to be of a benefit.
So, Chairman, I do want to make one comment since, I was one of the board members that asked for the looking at the options.
Yes, sir.
So, Laura, if you don't mind putting back up the two entrances. So thank you very much for putting those pictures together. I do understand the issue at the north end, seeing the topo lines and seeing how that road and seeing that it's highly unlikely that without extensive land work, you're actually going to get a road that conforms to the town code. However, I think when we deal with other applications and other developers on their property, I'm a little concerned about the constraint of not wanting to modify the golf course. And so that'll be part of the consideration. The strength of that southernmost roadway, southernmost option being a right of way already existing, right? The neighbors aren't going to be able to complain about that. And
I'm sure they will.
but they won't have a basis because there was a right of way there. Should have studied the maps better. However, I do think that modifying the golf course to get something that's more amenable to an existing right of way on the town maps is something that you should be open to.
Could another possibility be that you connect off Country Club? I know it would snake by the 11th green. It doesn't take advantage of the right of way, but it is a possibility because
Yeah.
that is a landlocked, it's not a dead end road. It does loop around, but it's still contained within that neighborhood.
Could that be pointed out somehow so we
Yeah.
can see that?
You
So if
see it
you-
on Google Maps,
It would be north,
north.
right at the edge.
Put your microphone forward, Mike, okay?
I mean, I know what you're saying, and I suppose we could consider it.
Right.
But I can tell you right now that having an entrance there is not going to eliminate the need for the boulevard entrance, because you're going to have a cul-de-sac at that point that's going to be, and I'm just guessing, it's going to be over 750 feet long.
Okay, well, there's another way to get out the north end.
Right.
So on the north end, obviously that 10% grade coming up is not realistic. But if it followed the golf cart path over to the spur to Row Road, you have a secondary entrance and
Yep.
you completely bypass Ruffner.
I guess.
I mean, so there's a couple possibilities. You can come in off Ruffner off of the right of way. It does sacrifice a little bit of the 11th green. An option is to come off of North Country Club, which is a shorter distance, completely bypassing Ruffner and then connecting in and out. And I've said this before, I'm not a big fan of cul-de-sacs. I don't think that if it's the last option, I can get that. Or if it fits the land use or topography or something like that. And I know the people live on cul-de-sacs, they like them, they're quiet, they don't get a lot of traffic. But here, there were some observations. I've been on Ruffner Road a lot in the last couple of weeks. It's a pretty well-traveled road. I mean, there's people live in the neighborhood that are on the board here. And they're right. There's people walking, people biking up until a week or two ago. A lot of traffic comes through there. So if we can try to, like you said before, just keep going through some iterations of what the best thing may be, then we'll have a bunch of options that we can take a look at and finally say, okay, we think this is the most plausible one.
Yep. I mean, to make it clear, and Mr. Diarpino, said, very poignant comments. And we mentioned this last time, and as a planning board member, setting a precedent by replacing property with a road is going to weigh extremely heavily. And I'm sure for the town board, it's going to weigh on them also. So if there's an option here to use existing right-of-ways, relay out in another manner, I think it's an option or an iteration that should be explored. And I personally at this point don't necessarily see any constraints coming to modifying the greens on the golf course. If it's a showstopper for the golf course, well then we can have that discussion.
Okay.
So it's actually, I think, East Country Club Drive. Yeah, right here. Yeah. So
Yep. Is it right there, that bend in the
Google
road?
Maps, see what
It's the corner.
right
Yeah.
there.
Correct.
Mhm.
I mean, the golf club's property line is the north side of East Country Club Drive. The vast majority of it is East Country Club. This is the right of way over here that was platted. I think one of the things that the Conservation Advisory Council also had talked about, Complete Streets just had a meeting on Friday and also made a very strong recommendation that kind of regardless of where a vehicular entrance to this development went, something to mitigate some of the traffic would be a walking trail between East Country Club Drive and Ruffner, right through here, which they were going to explore how to fit that.
Or could you show me? I know that's hard to see.
Yes, there I
Your
am.
mouse there, I know.
They'll make it. I like to make it pink. The grade in here.
Oh, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Okay, thank you.
That's the easement that
Yeah.
you're following.
A complete streets path.
Mhm.
It's been on the complete streets maps for a really long time.
But
Mhm.
that path is actually the separation or the land that is not
No, this
a
is,
residential buildable lot.
no, this is the other end. right?
This,
is this. This
No,
is
no, it's the same end.
yeah, this is
The
the
red
southern
line
end.
coming out that way to
Oh, gotcha.
Ruffner.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
All right, gotcha.
They're
So rather than that be a road, it would be a multi-use.
It was kind of regardless of where wherever, you know, like if a proposal like this was going to go through, a mitigating thing should always be the multi-use path go through
Right.
here. Yeah.
Can I just say, I first of all, I appreciate you. I was really pushing for the emergency access for the past couple of meetings, so I really appreciate you putting that in and showing that. And I agree with Mr. DiArpino that I think if you could follow that access for the access to the north, as well as, you know, the one on the other side, I respect that they have a right to develop property. But you have a lot of folks here that you're affecting. And I think if we could make the motion to be good neighbors and try to, you're not going to please everybody. There will always be somebody that you're not going to please. But I really think the green on the green is just the holes in the, it can be it can be done. It can be changed. It's not the end of the world. If it helps some of the neighbors kind of acclimate to what's going on, it's big development for them. I just think that another way can be done. I agree with you with the paths. I think that it would be a really good option if we could look at that.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, Bill Sweet, representing Mohawk Golf Club. Follow up on Laura's comments about CAC. One of the real concerns that they've got about the Country Club Drive neighborhood is that it really becomes a maze and it's landlocked. So in essence, all we'd be doing by creating another access point there would be moving traffic from Ruffner Road, which is more heavily trafficked now than Country Club Drive, and moving it over there. Same thing as if you extend it to Row Road, you're going to be impacting more neighbors on Row Road than you would the two homes that front on Ruffner. My point being, if you tried to put an access in here, you're going to impact three homes very closely with a roadway. And you do accomplish the connectivity, but we were also willing to examine the connectivity on the walking path as part of the CAC recommendation so that we could create the connectivity without adding traffic to Country Club Drive. Limiting the traffic to the single point and creating the emergency access out to Row Road, which to Dave's point, we hope never gets used, but it would be for emergency purposes only. And quite honestly, 22 units as part of a traffic summary that we will do to some of the concerns as part of the formal application is going to be a minimal impact to what's already happening on Ruffner Road.
Yeah, for the public's information, you know, again, we're working through ideas here. This is a new proposal tonight. So traffic numbers, you know, are standard from handbooks, generated from handbooks, and we will get those numbers, whether it be 22 townhomes or where it's 10 single-family homes and 12 townhomes. Those numbers will be generated, and I believe there's similar handbooks for effect on the schools too. Those are
Yeah,
numbers.
we'll
that can
follow
be-
all the-
Those
all
are
the
numbers that can be pulled.
Traditional
also.
guides, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I'll also add that we, as far as schools go, the planning office, the town has meetings with the schools. We give them projections of, or at least indications of what's coming up for their planning purposes. But we don't get involved basically in their business. We'll have the numbers. The numbers will be communicated to the town. And that's really our charter here as far as the schools go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a couple follow-up points, if I may, just listening to some of the comments. There are no grade changes amounting to 26 feet happening anywhere. I think some of that was taking a look at what the options were that we wanted to illustrate for your benefit to see what that grade slope was and the change in grade from Ruffner Road past our 14th tee down to the project site. So there's no substantial grade changes here. All the stormwater management will be contained within the 14 acres. We've already got a fairly elaborate stormwater management plan in place for the golf course, which will be integrating the two. I've heard reference a number of times, both at the meetings at the golf club and here again tonight, The areas to the north where the drainage problems currently exist are off of our property. They currently exist between Ruffner and Rao. And we cooperated with the town to build that large retention basin, but unfortunately that's hydrologically upgrade from where the stormwater issues are between Rao and Ruffner. So our project isn't going to be contributing to those. If anything, we're going to be containing what we've got on our 14 acres and then dealing with that as part of our stormwater management plan.
Which, as we get that far, will be reviewed by a town designated engineer also.
And we already have had the wetlands delineation done. And based on Mr. Smart's observations, there are no indicators of existing wetlands. And because we do drain into municipal drainage systems, we'd be exempt from any of those DEC Army Corps guidelines anyway, because all drainage points on a golf course end up at a municipal stormwater system.
So I do want to follow up on that because I did do a little research on the timing of a wetland delineation, and it does say you should not do it at the end of a drought. So I think it might be good to do another one. I wouldn't recommend one.
We can do
like
it. We can
that.
do an update.
Yeah, but the other thing that I did notice.
It's not only as I'm not sure if everyone totally understands. I know you do, Laura, but a wetlands delineation isn't all about water, standing water on the ground. It's about vegetation, soil types, a lot of other factors that go into it. It's not just because you see standing water, it's a wetland.
Correct. And I think that's why it's difficult to do in a drought because all the ephemerals and everything are completely killed off. So it's sort of hard to do, which is what I was reading. It's hard to get a true wetland delineation based on vegetation at the end of a drought. It was just that timing. But you would want to go and check in your EAF because I did notice in your EAF that you checked that there were wetlands. So maybe go check in what you've got in here. Yeah.
Wrong box.
No, it checks it automatically because when we're doing the EAF for this property, it selects the entire tax parcel, which is the golf course. Actually, no, that's not true.
The map at the end says it, but there's a page. I mean, you actually have an Army Corps of Engineers application in here to be submitted.
Right.
Yeah, number 5, page 5. So just to follow up, it might.
That box gets checked automatically, I think is what I was.
Well, it gets automatically checked at the end. The end when the EAF mapper checks
Mhm.
everything.
Well, that sounds administrative to me. I'm sure that's
Yeah.
something we can clean
Yeah.
up.
But yeah, I'd say the wetland delineation should be double checked in a more normal time of year, and then double check your EAF.
Okay.
I was just looking through the agenda notes. My comment earlier regarding open space, which is the requirement of the average density development. I'm just trying to find it, Laura, so maybe you can summarize for us. Is it required to be of use to the public or, in a physical way? Or in other words, if the trees, if we use the potential public space to maximize the amount of vegetation that doesn't get touched, would that count as a benefit to the public?
Yeah, that was and Clark, you can jump here at any time, jump in at any time. But yeah, the concept of the average density development specifically speaks to the land protecting private water or waterways or being recreationally used to the public, open and accessible to the public. So a buffer to kind of private residential properties. I think it can be argued that there's
Yeah, I think in this
benefit
case,
to that.
yeah, I think there's benefit in this, here in the public, the most that we could do to maintain a buffer as large as possible between, the existing, back at the existing homes along Ruffner Golf Course would obviously be a positive thing. So,
Yeah, and then the other thing that is possible when we're exploring the open space is that the developer is looking into potentially limiting development in a different area, not use of to the golf course, but like development to a different area of the golf course. And so that may also be something that you could consider when you're looking at the open space preservation under average
Right.
density development code.
And just to follow up on that, conversation was had last Wednesday relative to the limitations that are placed on us at only 190 acres. Most golf courses that have a 9-hole par 3 and an 18-hole regulation golf course are probably going to be north of 250 acres. So we don't have a lot of surplus land around the golf course that you might find if you were looking at a new design today where they're protecting a lot of wetlands and natural species, which we've already done on our 190. But we do have a sliver of land that borders Jaffrey Street over by our fifth tee box. And that's what Laura's speaking about. We looked at being able to limit, I don't think it would be complying anyway, just based on the depth of the land there. But we're looking at that along with the walking path connection from Country Club Drive as a way to mitigate some of the concerns about keeping all the open space. And the point I made the other night is we're keeping 180 acres open. And we subscribe to the Audubon Golf Course Management principles as well. So we've got bird sanctuary, wildlife sanctuary, fescue, which is better from a carbon standpoint than trees. We plant fescue all over the golf course. And all of this is in conjunction with the Audubon Society. And also the other question that came up was pesticides and chemical control. And again, all that subscribes now to the Audubon. And most golf courses now are not using anything toxic any longer anyway.
Yeah, and the, as far as parkland, right, in this case would probably be payment in lieu of parkland. I think was it $1,600 per unit times 22 units?
Yep.
That would go into the parkland fund if this were to go forward, of course. Right?
Yep.
Because that obviously the parkland, you could take some of the space.
We could take some of that 70 feet.
What
and
benefit would it have, and it might impact the neighbors in a
Exactly.
negative way,
Right.
from either recreational because of noise or, people there you may not want in your backyard. And,
right.
So it may be best parkland parkland fee in lieu of parkland seems a reasonable
Agreed.
Way to proceed. Okay. Mr. Khan, what do you think?
Yeah, so Laura, we're not at the formal application yet, right? So the 14-day clock hasn't on the
No,
ADD?
they did actually submit a formal
Is it-
application about maybe a week ago. Yeah, probably about a week ago. Yeah. The previous application was for a sketch plan, which just to speak to the public, like we are unable to do a formal notification to adjacent residents until there's a completed application. And because there were so many variances that were required, it would have to be denied. And so there's no way for the planning board to do any formal notification to the public until the zoning board has a chance to look at that project. So
But the zoning board would do a notification.
the zoning board would do a notification, actually very similar to the steps that the previous project had. Planning board was unable to do notification that until the zoning board was able to do notification. But in this case, with the average density development application coming in about a week ago, that does start the timeline for the average density development, and you would probably see a formal notification for a public hearing once the planning board was comfortable with at least the functionality of the project, is when we'd be able to do a formal notification to the public.
So when is the town board going to be made aware of the application?
Well, we have been talking about it at the Economic Development Committee meeting, but I will formally, well, actually, I mean, they're copied on all the planning board packets.
Okay.
Yep.
They're aware of it.
So for our next steps, I mean, we need to be at a point where we're comfortable to call for the public hearing. I mean, that's the bottom line. Do we need to actually take action and have a vote on a sketch plan for this process for average density development?
It's, I have to go back to the average density development code because sometimes it has a slightly different process, but typically you'd still have to take action on the sketch plan first.
Yeah, because I think with the past recent one we did, we got to a point where there were several meetings where we kind of manipulated the site plan and we all came to a point where we were comfortable with proceeding with the public hearing. Obviously at the public hearing, took the information that we heard and tried to utilize that to either modify the site plan or utilize the information we received in our recommendation to the town board. And then again, the town board will have another opportunity with their public hearing. And then based on what action they take, it may potentially come back to this board. It may not if they don't grant the special use permit.
Right.
Obviously, I think it's important to say just for the public, if the town board were not to grant the special use permit for the average density development, I don't think that takes this completely off the table because you could always go back to the townhome project and, take your chances with the zoning board of appeals with the numerous area variances that you had.
Yeah.
So, so there's a lot to consider and to watch for as far as the public is concerned. But what I heard tonight is that there's a concern regarding ingress and egress, right? And at a minimum, I think you need to at least sketch sketch up what that would look like and what the impact
Yep.
would be. Or I don't think you're going to go any further if you don't do that. So
Look, you've moved in the right direction, getting all the variances off the table. The ADD, I think, is a good option for this area. But like I
We
said,
certainly can take a look at sketching up an access from South Country Club. But to your point about the concerns of creating front yards, you're probably now going to impact 3 or 4 homes that will all become front yards off of that road. So we're
But-
only exacerbating.
they already
but
have that.
right, but the difference is there's a right of way existing there, right? That's the key.
Right, but
I mean,
you're going to have
There's
2 other
no
homes.
right of way existing on East Country Club Drive.
Well, not in East Country, but the right of
But
way
on
off
the
of
right
Ruffner.
of way off of Ralph.
Off of Ruffner, right.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so we just need to understand that, the whys.
Yeah,
Again, the whys and whys
we can
nots,
sketch that.
You know,
For sure.
yep. I think we need to have that.
And we'll also show the walking path that the CAC asked
Yep.
for. So we can show that connectivity.
It seemed, based on your response, it seemed like you had an idea of where that access would be on Country Club. Would it be on East Country Club? or
It's
on
very
South
tight.
Country?
There's literally a 90-degree turn
From north to east.
to east. And there's a house right there that abuts, we've got a fence that runs all the way down Country Club.
Yeah.
So we literally then you'd be coming, if you're moving north, well, it'd actually be northeast on North Country Club. It'd probably be a 45
Yep.
that would take you around our green up to or through the green, depending on the radius that we've got to maintain. Whereas a walking path, we were willing to look at just dedicating 10 or 15 feet and deeding that, make that part of the right of way.
But I don't see how a residence would be impacted with the access on East Country Club,
Well, the one corner house certainly would be.
traffic-wise, but not their frontage.
Yeah, oh, yeah, because their side yard it's probably 30 feet from our fence right now.
On East Country Club.
Yeah. It's the house right on the corner where it makes the 90, and it goes from north to east. That's
Talking
pretty-
northeast or southeast?
Uh,
East Country Club to South Country Club.
Well,
Yeah, it's
north is
very-
what runs parallel with the fairway.
Mhm.
Then east is
Mhm.
the right turn. If we were going to continue up to Ruffner, it's kind of moving in a northeast direction.
Yeah, the
Northeast direction.
labels on the roads aren't correct.
Okay.
Like it should, like
They are
East
off a
Country
bit.
Club is the most northern road
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
Country Club Drive.
Correct.
Then
But-
South Country Club is the most eastern.
I mean, the public will have to decide. We'll get feedback, I'm sure, but with access on route and in the Country Club, we're gonna have more people impacted by traffic perceptionally, but there's a greater impact to those on rough there, but fewer of them. Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I just think that that's going to be, those streets are narrower. There's even more likelihood of accidental injury because we are all on guard on Ruffner and Ralph. I don't mow my lawn either without
Yep.
knowing there's a risk I'm taking,
Yep.
and so I kind of understand what your point is, but I also think that that's more logical to Mr. DiRapino's point. It just feels more natural to just run that from that end to Ralph.
Well, and your point, Mr. Laflamme, is well made because, being there on a Saturday morning and watching the number of moms with strollers and dogs being walked and people moving up and down Country Club Drive, and they really are caught in their own little maze there. They can't really get out of the neighborhood. Was one of the reasons CAC wanted us to create a connecting walking path so they could walk up to Ruffner. But you're right about traffic. There's really only one way in, and they're going to come in off Union Street and run down North Country Club Drive. So all that traffic will be concentrated on Country Club Drive coming in.
Not
And
that I
same
think
thing
it's
on-
that
on-
much traffic, but there could be some cut through traffic.
Well, if
now.
there's
could
not
be
that
avoidance
much
of
traffic there,
Ruffner.
why would there be that much traffic on Ruffner?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think that traffic is that unless it's used as a alternate path to Ruffner.
Well, if it has to be, considered to be our entrance to the project, I guess is my concern. That would be dumping that traffic onto North Country Club Drive.
Right.
Yep.
So Chairman, procedurally, I just looked it up, that you are able to call for a public hearing now. I mean,
Yeah.
really at any time, but you don't typically call for them until you
No.
have vetted the project a little bit
Yeah.
more. And then what we do is when we do a recommendation to the town board, we grant sketch plan approval or denial with a negative recommendation, but essentially we combine them together. So it's sketch plan approval of the
Mhm.
subdivision, along with a recommendation on the special use permit to the town board all in one go.
Right, and we wouldn't do
Right.
that the night of the public hearing. Obviously, we would take the public comments and incorporate those at least at the following meeting to make the recommendation.
Right, yeah, but,
Some
and
information.
you know, if it was a sketch plan, and we've said this before, the sketch plan denial is sort of tough. You just kind of write what you want to see on the next sketch plan
Yeah.
submission. Yeah.
Yeah. So from a timeline standpoint, I would think you would take the comments you heard tonight and at least give us some feedback, why or why not, your position on that, what you've heard and what you've heard from the public tonight. And that would be at the January, was it
Ninth.
9th
Ninth.
meeting?
Yeah.
And at that time, if we're comfortable, we could call for the public hearing, for the planning board public hearing, the following meeting, all right? So that would mean late January would be the opportunity for the public to be heard regarding this- the 23rd, regarding this proposal or some variation of it based on the comments that we had tonight.
Right.
And then obviously then we would take that input, we would make a recommendation or take any action. We just listen that night. And then we would, have some discussions, I'm sure, where we feel and whether or not we move to have a resolution making a recommendation to the town.
Totally understood and agreed.
Okay. I just want to spell that out so everybody
The point of
understands.
that, it's a long process.
So it's a process because town board only has meetings once a month. And they have a planning meeting, I guess you could call it, and then they only have a regular meeting once a month. So, they would have to have a resolution to call for the public hearing themselves. So that would put it out another month there, right?
Right.
And then they would have the public hearing, and then they would take action. So you're looking at, you want to keep it moving. Obviously, if this were to go forward, it'd be probably spring by the
Spring.
time we get through it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the anticipation. So let's take the next meeting. We'll come back with some of our findings.
Right.
Some additional sketches.
Yeah, and if you do some handbook lookups on
traffic
the
summaries.
traffic, I know you're very familiar, you do them all the time. At least give us some numbers, some hard numbers versus it's minimal. Let's have some hard numbers. If the same handbook or a similar handbook has impacts on schools, approximate number of students generated, please provide those so the public would have those also, okay? And we'll have them,
Yep, will do.
All right. Is Mr. Khan, is there anything else that we were missing? Obviously, what we heard tonight, was, concerns about drainage. And as it goes forward, there'll be an engineering
Oh, yeah.
done by the applicant, and it'll be reviewed by a town designated engineer. So there'll be basically a peer review. And any comments from the town designated engineer, I know these guys are familiar with that, would have to be
We'd address
resolved, So water concerns, traffic, schools, obviously green space or buffers, concern the neighbors.
And to your point of earlier, Mr. Chairman, we'd like to maintain that 50-foot buffer, if at all possible.
Yep.
The CAC was taking a look at adjusting our green space percentages by reducing that potentially to 35, but then through conversation, we all agreed that we'd really like to see that stay 50.
Yeah, the other thing too is those lots, the size of those lots, we didn't really talk about that tonight, where the single family homes are. What are they called out right now in the drawing? I guess I can pull it up here.
What are they on average?
Just approximately. Looks like they're still pretty large lots, 16,000 square feet or so.
16,000, give or take.
So
I think
what-
the smallest one is 13.5.
Right. So with an average density development, you have the opportunity to basically have
9,000.
right to 9,000. So these lots are larger than what are required by the average density development standard. So an opportunity would be to increase the green space, and we're not having it protected, because once somebody moves in, it's hard to control whether they cut trees down, is to maybe limit those lot sizes a little bit so that the green space is more of a real green space. It's not on their property.
Well, and our concept was not to clear cut anyway.
Right.
Obviously, we're in the tree management business on a daily basis, so we want to preserve as many of the deciduous
Mhm.
hardwood trees as we can, remove the scrub pine and all the saplings and all the things that really are crowding out the good healthy stock. So there's really no intention to clear cut to a back property
Right.
line.
But
So
if it
even
needs
though
to be
we'll show
protected is what I'm saying. You can always
Yeah.
limit the lot size.
We could
which
shorten
would-
up the lot
Which wouldn't be
size,
their property, so.
and then
they-
50 could
they
become
shouldn't be touching
65
it.
maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, just think about it,
Understand what the Chairman's saying? We could make those backyards a little deeper and give it more than 50.
Yep.
We
A
could,
little
And
less
reduce-
deep.
but let me bring this up. This is something that is a requirement of the conservation and subdivision, is the open space percentage, which the code states, I mean, I can bring it up. Let's see.
And Laura might know off the top of
Yeah.
her head.
Yeah.
I got it open here.
It's it's a very, it's one sentence. So open space requirements, quantitative considerations. The subdivider shall set aside for open space purposes the same percentage of the entire proposed development as that by which the total of the lot areas have been reduced. So we obviously have a set
I got you.
boundary of our total
All right,
development, and we have a set number of lots. So in order to meet this percentage, basically, you would think, oh, you can get more open space, you can
I got
increase
you.
your open space
Yeah.
percentage by reducing the size of the lots. But really, you're taking from the lots.
You're
and
compounding the
that-
problem.
And you can't make it.
Yeah,
You can't make it.
I understand. Yep.
So
Diminishing returns.
we
Yeah.
want to do it that way, but, we kind of need a judgment from you that you are willing to, I guess, waive that requirement.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we need to make the lots bigger
Yeah.
to meet this
Well,
requirement.
one of the things we've run into is that, with 9,000 square foot lots with reasonably sized homes, they're pretty small lots, and then, and it
Well,
limits.
that's why it's just the townhome lots, and I don't think we have anything under 10, do we?
Yeah.
I think we got one that's under 10.
So the townhouse lots would skew more to that 9 to
Yeah,
10,000 foot,
I
you
mean,
know,
how
the single
many
families.
townhomes do people usually put a pool in or something? Probably slim. right?
Slimmed in, right.
Yeah, whereas, there's a potential for these single family homes, put a pool in, so if the lots are too restricted,
Right.
it may impact potential homeowners.
And it is a funny calculation, taking the difference between 18,000, whatever the lot ends up being, and then we have to match that in
Right.
conservation areas. So you
Okay.
really compound your problem by reducing the size of the lot.
Right.
So, but again, our intention isn't to clear cut to the property line either. So there might be a visual that looks like there's more green space, I guess is my point.
All right, let me ask, anybody, Mr. Khan, do you have
No,
anything else
No,
at this
nothing
point in
else.
time?
Trinash, I think
How
we,
about members of the board or anybody virtual have any questions or comments for the applicant?
Yeah, it's Leslie. I do have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay. Being neither a golfer nor a member of the club, is there an association or anything else that has requirements for the course itself that we need to be aware of?
In what regard, Ms. Gold? I'm not sure. You thinking like a homeowners association?
No, I'm thinking in terms of what the course needs to comprise or something like that. I think there is a rule for the courses in the PGA, but I'm not sure of that even. But since we're looking at possibly modifying your course, I'm wondering if there's any constraint that way.
No,
an
just that
association.
it would take, golf course was built in 1922 and it's a historic layout. It would change the rating of the golf course, the par of the golf course, the integrity of that hole. That's why I'm going to exhaust all other possibilities than modifying the golf course. I mean, we were founded in 1898. There's a lot of history here. And I'd rather not get into disturbing that if at all possible. And one of the other points, I thought maybe you were asking about requirements that the club may place on the home ownership. There is not going to be any requirement that you have to be a member to purchase a home here. Unlike what the Edison Club's doing, they're putting together a concept for what's called a bundle community, and you see those more down in Florida, where they mandate a golf course membership with every deed transfer.
Yes.
So the only way you can live in the neighborhood is to be a golf course member. We're not going to impose that. And also because of the size, being only 22 units, we're not going to register with the AG and do a homeowners association either.
Right.
We're just going to put some tight deed restrictions together. We're going to make maintenance service, lawn care, landscape maintenance, snow plowing available through our services and facilities at the club.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, and for the record, I apologize, Mr. McPartland. Mr. McPartland is recusing himself on this project.
Yes.
And Ms. Gold is sitting in on anytime we have any discussions or take any actions on this project, for the record. Okay. All right. Any other questions at this point in time?
Can I just review, Laura, procedurally, if we were to decline sketch plan approval under the plan, does it still go, do they still have a right to go to the town board?
Yes.
You- Okay, thank you.
You would just do at that point
a
a
negative.
negative recommendation.
Okay.
Yep.
The town board has the ability to overrule your recommendations, obviously.
Or condition any approvals that they have also.
right.
Correct.
As we know.
Which they've done in the past.
Which they have done, right?
Which we know.
Right.
It was an ADD also.
Yeah.
They have.
I just have a question that will probably come out as we develop further, if it does develop. So there's no gate to access the club now. It's just go through the main
Right.
door or entrance way.
We've actually got two entrance points, one on Union, one is an exit, one's an entrance, and then the one on North Country Club.
Okay. As you add more egress, it's gonna be the same thing. There's no fencing. There's gonna be more breaks in the fence that go around the club. But it actually kind of opens it up more to passerbys.
Well, I think the concept on the Row Road side would be to do similar to what you approved at Kelts Farm,
Yep.
where it'd be an emergency breakthrough barrier.
Mhm.
So there'd be a continuation of the fence. Believe it or not, when they built the club in the early 20s, there is a perimeter fence around the entire property.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm
And-
saying. Like it actually is non-penetrable.
Well, we have had issues in the past with kids wanting to party at the confluence of our 4th tee, 14th green, and 15th tee box. That's where our crossover building is. And there were a lot of Saturday mornings. The police now routinely in the summer patrol down to that area. But kids were finding a way onto the golf course over the fence around somehow. And so that's why we like to keep the perimeter. It's just one more deflection, trying to keep.
But as you open this up a little bit more to development, public, you're not going to add more security
No.
fences in those areas.
No,
Thanks.
not at all.
Okay, anything else? All right, so we'll look forward to seeing you after the first of the year with some, a little bit of an update or
Sounds
another
good.
sketch, okay?
Okay, thank you for the comment.
All right, thank you. Thank you to the public, and watch the town website. Everything's posted, usually the Friday before the meeting. It's the same packet that we all receive. That's where we go to get it, is at the site, is at the town website. So you get the same information that we get. Okay, thank you. All right, so we have a new item tonight, and that's 2475 Brookshire Drive. That's the Tall Oaks Apartments, and this is a site plan application for replacement of existing signage and the installation of a new sign. And this is the first time that we've seen that. We have a representative tonight of the application, representing the applicant. Is that Mr. Wheeler?
Yes, that's me.
Hello, Mr. Wheeler. Let's give it a
How are
second
you?
here for the room to clear out. And then what I'm going to ask you to do is kind of walk us through what's there now and what the proposals are so that we understand. Okay, Mr. Wheeler?
Yep, sounds good.
And thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Appreciate it.
Yeah, let me know when you're ready.
Yep. Maybe we might want to have somebody close that door. Do you mind? Okay, thank you, Mr. Sweet. Okay, I think we're all set.
All right. This is the Tall Oaks apartment complex, recently purchased by Jankow Companies, Ryan Jankow. Basically, he wants to update. He's done some things to the complex already. He painted all the buildings. He's working on making some improvements. He redid the pool. I haven't seen it done, but he was doing that when I was there. So there's existing signage on the property. We just want to redo it, make it a little nicer with the new logo. So the one you see on the screen here, it's a freestanding sign, same location, same size, just a new look.
And it's on Route 7, is that correct? Just the locations?
I think that's on
Pierce?
Pierce. That's
Pierce.
Pierce.
Yeah, because the submittal doesn't, each of the drawings don't state the location on them. That's why I want you to walk through that. Okay, or maybe it does.
Okay, yeah, this is more of a secondary sign on the side road.
Okay.
Yeah, this looks like it's Brookshire, right? Or is it Pierce?
Yeah.
It's Pierce.
It's
Pierce.
Pierce. That's actually, he's standing on Brookshire taking a
Brookshire,
picture
yeah.
of Pierce. Yeah.
Okay. And that replaces an existing approved sign? Or is this the one that's, was one that was Renegade or whatever you want to call it?
So Clark outlined them pretty good. Clark, jump in if I'm getting it wrong. That's the unpermitted one.
Okay. Gotcha. And that's basically a monument sign stating where the apartments are. Is that correct?
Yeah, but when Clark was doing all the research on this with Tom, he did think that this one could stand for the one allotted sign for non-residential
Gotcha.
use in a residential zone. So even though it's unpermitted, it can probably exist as it's like one sign that's not associated with an entrance, but would still need
A waiver.
a waiver because it's not within 2 feet of the ground, I think.
Okay. And so, Mr. Wheeler, so that, to Laura's comment there, this one is 29 inches above the ground. And I don't know if that was chosen for any special reason, but if it was 24, Laura, it wouldn't need a waiver, right?
Correct. That's the lucky number.
If that's what we need to do, I can definitely drop 5 inches. That's not going to make a difference to us.
Something to consider as we go forward. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
The next sign we have, there's a main entrance sign here. That's a masonry structure. It's existing. Again, there's a panel on it. We want to take that panel off and put a new panel in its place with a new logo. Nothing's really changing in terms of size or location or anything like that.
Right. And there's no waiver that's permitted.
Yeah, so that one wouldn't even need planning board approval,
Okay.
except for it's in a package with other ones that do.
Gotcha. So we're good on that one.
That one is good.
All right. And next is some column signs.
Yep. Each entrance has this columns on each side of the entrance. So there's two sets of these. We just want to do a logo on the columns. So when you pull up, you know that you are in fact pulling into the Tall Oaks apartment complex. Just aluminum with a vinyl decal, non-illuminated on those columns.
Right.
Columns are existing.
Right. And there's 4 of those, correct?
Yes.
And there's no existing sign now on any of those columns?
No, there's nothing there.
All right. Is that it? I'm scrolling through here. Looks like that's it.
That's it.
That's it. Okay. Well, since the one doesn't require any action, I think we're all set there. The waiver one, I mean, if it's not a big deal to come into compliance and drop it 24 inches, I think that'd probably be the right thing to do. I don't think there'd be any impact there. That's not lighted, right? Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then the other ones are the ones that are a bit different, the monument signs, because they're not directional signs, they're basically just identification signs. So that would require a waiver from this board also.
Yeah, because in Clark's research, you would only be allowed 1 per entrance, and there's
Right.
4.
So, because that's basically how the board feels about that. I'll be honest with you, I haven't had a chance to get down there today, and by the time I was, it would have been dark. So I'm going to get down there over the weekend and take a look at this, especially the 4 signs that go on the columns. We just want to take a look at that. I haven't had the opportunity. My initial thoughts is if you can come into compliance with the 24 inches, I mean, those 2 signs are a done deal. It's just a matter of this board is okay with having the additional monument signs. Or the additional signs on the columns.
The columns,
which are not directional signs.
I think you don't know who put this in, but this is what it sort of looks like now. So it's just the brick columns there,
Yeah.
and they
Yep.
proposed to paint them and then put the signs on the front.
Right, so the columns already exist.
The columns already exist.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the sign's 20 by 22, 22 inches by 20 inches. Not very large, obviously, the columns aren't that large, so I don't, personally, I don't have a problem with it. It's done tastefully,
Can I just ask, I live right down the block from this. I've lived there since I was 3, so I've seen these apartments forever, played in them when I was a kid. Is he painting all of the buildings gray? Because I don't know if it's out of our purview.
No, I think just the monument signs.
Because he's painted the buildings,
Yeah, the
some of them
buildings have been
gray. And it's not.
Yeah, the buildings have been painted gray. I think all of them or most of them, I'm not sure.
I've just seen the 2 on the corner where they're Pierce's, and I understand that, our representative has no, it's not aesthetically, it's not.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a drab color choice,
It's-
but I
it's-
felt there was no purview for us on that, right?
I'm sure
That I
there's,
know of.
Yeah.
it just looks very institutional.
It does,
based,
Let me ask
Quite
you,
agree.
frankly.
Did they have to get a building permit to paint the exterior painting?
They did not.
Yeah, that would be the trigger. If they were changing it and we thought it would be an impact to the neighbors, then we would probably send it on to the architectural review board, at least give some feedback.
Interesting.
But it never came to us,
Okay.
I guess it's no different than, a residential homeowner decides to, change the color of your home. You don't need a building permit.
It's radical change, though.
It is, yeah.
Radical change. I like the signs and I like the lettering and the change.
Yeah,
but-
so I guess what I'd like to suggest, and again, up to the board, is that we take a look at it, and we'll be able to take a look between now and the next meeting. But we could have a tentative resolution in the meantime, so that I know that it keeps the project moving forward, since it's going to be a while before our January meeting. Was it 3 or 4 weeks, right?
Mhm.
And if the board isn't happy with it, well, we'll vote on it or modify the resolution on the at the January 9th meeting. Does that seem reasonable to everybody?
Comfortable
I
with
think that would be that would help the applicant. It's about the fastest we could do anything, and it gives us an opportunity to take a look at it, and we'd have a tentative resolution available. Does that sound good to everybody?
Sounds good to me.
Does anybody have any concerns? Okay, so I'm hearing that we'll have a tentative resolution for approval, but we'll have the opportunity to take a look, and if there's any concerns or comments, we'll have the opportunity to pull or modify that resolution on January 9th, okay? Sound good, Mr. Wheeler?
Sounds good. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you for hanging in there with us tonight. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
All right. And that'll take us to reports. Ms. Robertson or Mr. Henry, anything for us tonight?
Yeah, so we had a late arriver, which we didn't want to squeeze on the agenda, but because we only have one December meeting and there's I guess a tight maybe closing deadline on this, Clark and I wanted to bring it to your attention. So 1760 Union Street and 1752 Union Street are kind of looking at tenant changes. And so essentially 1760 Union Street, we call it the Coldwell Banker Building. Like a little while ago, I think we approved a
There's something
therapy
there.
hand
Yeah.
place go in there. And it's shared. There's a couple other shared facilities in the 1760 Union building. It's our understanding that the Coldwell Banker part of that building wants to move to 1752. So like 2 buildings down.
And 1750, that's not one of the buildings we're looking at with the potential or
No, I mean, we've been doing a lot of work in this corridor. 1748 is the one that's adjacent to the bank in the city of Schenectady. 1752 is the one that's directly adjacent to that. And then two more down is 1760. But there does, and I can share, and Clark and I can share with you the building permits. It does look like substantial improvements to the building. So renovations, new facade, new shingles and things like that. But not a massive change in use. I think the existing building right now is a chiropractor's office. And so it would be switching to a realtor's office, which we'll double check, but I think is a less intense use under our code. So if it ends up being a simple tenant swap from chiropractor to realtor, we would like to bring it as a tentative resolution in January. If that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys could always table it.
Thanks
but-
for the reminder, because Clark did send me an email on this today. And my thought is that 2 things. If it's less intense use and there's no need, there's no concerns about parking, et cetera, then it's not, I don't want to say it's not a big deal, but there's minimal concerns regarding it. And the other thing that I mentioned was the signage. If there is signage, okay, we'll take a look at it if it's non-compliant, or if we need to have a condition on the resolution for signs because they're not sure where they're going to go, we could also do that also.
Yeah.
But you did I didn't know about the painting and the exterior changes. Is that something that, to Ms. Strang's point, do we need to have some details on that before the next meeting so that if there's concerns it doesn't fit with the other buildings or needs to be referred to the Architectural Review Board?
Yeah, I mean, in the building plans, they didn't show the exterior changes, but Clark and I could ask them for that. Like, I'm pretty sure he said a re-roof at least, right, Clark? I mean, he definitely wanted to do some exterior changes.
Yes, he listed re-roofing, siding, and windows in the building permit.
Yeah, so we should probably have some details on what that is.
Yeah.
Before the meeting, so we can make sure that we're not concerned about that. But
Clark, this is Greg Bellamy. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
All right. I'm not used to this virtual thing, so sorry. But I'm here if you have any questions.
Can you summarize any of the exterior changes on either 1760 or 17?
Yeah, basically roof, siding and windows. That's the biggest change on the outside.
Say, is a roof similar to what's there now, or is there a change of color or anything?
No, the same color.
Okay, and how about the siding? What type?
Siding will be like a dark gray.
I mean, you've already put that siding in already, right?
Sorry?
Isn't that siding installed already?
No, we're gonna re-side it.
And I'm sorry that I don't know what's the current, is it like yellow or something now, beige or something, or?
I don't know.
It's a beige.
It's a beige color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'd be a gray siding. Okay. Yeah, if you could, have a color palette
The
or
non-sided
something,
walls
so
have
we
been
just,
painted.
we can share it, a picture, whatever you got, Mr. Bellamy would
I'm
be
sorry.
helpful.
No,
Absolutely.
we're talking Caldwell Banker, sorry. I'm back at the old
Greg,
project,
we'll send you an
'cause I wasn't
email
paying
tomorrow. We'll send you an
I'm trying
email
to figure out
tomorrow of a little design package that the architectural review board likes to see. It's basically a spec sheet on the siding, the windows, the shingles. You'll be familiar with it.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, so I think thank you, Mr. Henry, if you send that out and the applicant gives us some more details, and if you're not sure about signage, again, we can condition the resolution, that sort of thing. But it's not a total reuse of 1760, it's only one of the suites or a portion of it, is that what I'm hearing for the change of tenant?
So the Coldwell Banker portion of 1760 is proposed to move to 1752. We have heard that 1760 may actually convert to a dental office, but we don't have that formal application yet.
Okay, so we're only going to be working on change of tenant at 1752?
The most forward with the timeline that has been issued. So nothing, although we've gotten some emails, we haven't received anything for 1760 yet.
Okay, and as far as 1752, is that where the siding is going? We're
Yeah,
talking about 1752?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let's, get the information on the changes to 1752, and then we'll have a tentative resolution unless somebody's concerned. We'll have plenty of time, the next 3 to 4 weeks to, assuming that Mr. Bellamy gets us the information, quickly, then we'll have time to take a look at it, and if we have any concerns, we can at least get some email communications going, all right?
Okay, great. I will get it to you tomorrow.
Yep, and Mr. Henry will get you an email or give you what we need, and then you can respond, all right, Mr. Bellamy?
Perfect. Thank you.
All right.
But it does look like a nice investment in that building.
Yeah, no, we're all for fixing things up and reutilizing and, keeping the structures, obviously, and not having them abandoned. So we're all for that. We just got a process we have to get through with the change of tenant. And we'll be okay.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Laura, under reports. What else you have, you or Mr. Henry, under reports?
Just in that adjacent area, I think Eastern Parkway may have submitted a new elevation drawing, which we'll have to have architectural review board take a look at as well. That one we hadn't heard anything about in a long time, but we did get a drawing. So we'll let you know how that's going as well. Potentially quite a bit of change in a block, right? So if the 1760 building changes over to a dentist office and then the Eastern Parkway building actually gets built and then the Coldwell Bankers move into 1752, that's a lot of
Right.
investment
And
right
still, we still have an outstanding application too for the bank, right? Is that,
there. Do we? I would have to double check. I know we talked about it a couple times.
yeah, the bank in the building next door. He seemed like
Yes.
the realtor, I believe, came in. Seemed like he had a sense of urgency, but then all of a sudden it kind of
Disappeared again.
disappeared.
I
Yeah.
know.
So we'll have to see what's going on with that. Maybe we might have to contact him to see.
Because he wanted to do the mixed use building at
Right,
1748.
mixed use building. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were
We
talking
probably
about.
do have an open application on that one.
Yep. We'll have to ping him to see if he's still, if it's still active or not. Right. All right.
Not to tear it down, to just make it better.
Yeah, make it better. And we talked
Right.
about green space and less park.
Because we were sad when the application
we were
came
getting-
down to
we were getting an
tear.
application for an undisclosed.
Bank.
No, it was. a
Oh, the
restaurant.
chicken place
Yeah,
wanted
that
to
was-
take
And they
the
were gonna
building
tear it
down.
down
Correct.
1748 and use it as a parking lot.
Right.
Yeah, that's
That
all-
one
that's
was
gone.
withdrawn.
Yep.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. That's gone. Okay.
Thankfully.
Anything else, Laura?
Nope.
Karen? Okay. So I'm not trying to rush it along, but we'll go to commission business, but I'll start off with one thing. Ms. Shenfield is tendered her resignation. And this is her last meeting.
Oh.
So I just want to thank her for her service.
Stacy.
I'll be honest with you, I've lost track because time seems to fly. It's probably been a couple of years.
It's been 5 now.
Holy cow, I did lose track.
Yeah, it was the
If I
end
had
of
to guess on that, I would've said
2017 where I
3.
came on.
Wow. Amazing. 5 years of service. Thank you. And I think obviously we could have a ceremonial resolution for our January meeting. Thanking Ms. Shenfield for her service to the town. We appreciate that. Okay.
No, I appreciate it. And I appreciate, everybody on the board too. So it's been great.
Yeah, thank you. And if you move north, maybe we'll get you on a planning board up there with all this.
I know, right? I mean, that's where I am these days, so.
Okay. All right. And that's all I had under commission business. I just opened the floor for commission business. Anybody have anything for Ms. Robertson, town attorney, or Mr. Henry? I mean, I have nothing except for thank you as always, And I just want to wish everybody a happy holiday. Won't be seeing everybody till after the first of the year.
Right.
And so have a safe one and enjoy. We'll see you back here on January 9th. Okay. All right. Anything else, anybody? No? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Move for
Mr. Chairman.
adjournment by Mr. Scrubby Tennis and seconded by Mr. Laflamme. I can see he had his hand
Thank
ready
you.
to go. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
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 Okay.
All right.
Happy holidays, everyone.
I'm sure there's no one opposed, so thank you, everybody, and have a great evening.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Tomorrow and Wednesday, Thursday.